Hey guys, I'm Neuro, and tonight I want to talk about my parallel compression configuration in FL Studio for drums that uses Patcher. Here's my mixer track, or my mixer, and all these purple mixer tracks are my drums, and those all get routed to the drum bus, which contains a patcher that goes out to the master. Before I used this particular configuration, I routed all of my drums into a parallel compression bus that contained a parametric EQ and a limiter. And the parametric EQ is before the limiter. And I would adjust the level of each instrument going into the parallel compression bus, and then I would EQ before the limiter being used as a compressor. And then I would mix that in with the drums out to the master. That would work fairly well, about 90% of the time, but sometimes there were certain timbral qualities of the drums that I would lose when EQing before the compressor. And using this patcher solves that. So here's my patcher. The top path is the dry, quote-unquote, audio signal, and the bottom path is the parallel compression path. And each of these subpaths are the drums being routed into the drum bus. And if you can see what's going on here in this confusing mess, you might see where I'm going with this setup. Now, for a little bit of context of how my drums sound right now, in this track that I'm working on, I'm going to play a short section, and it's a little loud, and I'm playing in 3, 2, 1. So there are my drums. They're metal drums. The kick is clicky, the snare and the cymbals are being hit really hard, and there's some toms in there. So now here's the parallel compression path with the main path muted. I'm playing in 3, 2, 1. So you can hear the low end of the kick being pushed fairly hard into the limiter. In fact, I don't even think I adjusted the level. No, there's all the only thing that I adjusted was the overall volume of the affected signal. Since the kick is being pushed 100% into the limiter, there's pumping from the low end. Now, before I would solve this by just inserting a EQ before the limiter, but like I said, it would affect the entire band. It would affect the toms and the rooms because the rooms would have a certain amount of low end. Sometimes I would want to keep the low end of the kick in some mixes, but I wouldn't want the click in there. And you can imagine adjusting the high end of just for the kick click would remove some of the high end definition coming from the spots in the room. So while working on this mix, I found that I really liked the low end and the mid range of the kick more than I liked the high end being pushed into the limiter, which is being used as a compressor. And I also liked the volume up fairly high, so I'm going to keep the level of the kick at 100% or 0 dB, and I'm going to add in a EQ just to the kick. And I'm going to EQ the kick while the compressed signal is playing. And 3, 2, 1. I'm still going to add a little bit of a high pass there, around 40 though. I'm going to add a high shelf, or lower the high shelf. Let's move this up to about 60 actually. And you can hear that it's pumping a little bit less hard than it did before I added this compressor. And I still get to keep the sound of the mid-range in the compression. And I'm going to mix that in with the uncompressed signal as well while we're at it. And that's sounding pretty cool, I think. To set this up, it's fairly simple. I made a few dummy tracks already, and they're named fake kick, fake snare, fake spots, and those are all being routed into a fake bus. And the fake bus contains a patcher in its default state. Actually, I think the default state, it looks like this, but connect the dots. And here's the unaffected hypothetical sound. Is that the correct way of using that word? I'm a math major, not a English major. So to have individual inputs for the tracks that you have routed into the bus, all you do is you right click on this icon from FL Studio, you mouse over outputs and audio, and you are presented with some audio outputs of the mixer tracks that are in the bus that you set up. So I'm just going to click those to activate them. So let's get the kick in there, the snare, and the spots. And if you look in the top left, if you ever get lost of which is which, you just mouse over them and gives you a little name and a little helper. Let's just add any old plugin. Let's put in a Parametric EQ and pretend that's a limiter, and then we just connect the dots again. Oop. Boop. And now you have your individual audio paths, your sub paths that go out to the output of the patcher. And this functions as a separate bus or mixer track in parallel. But that's about it. And I just kind of wanted to make a video of this because I've been pulling my hair out trying to make something sound neat in the weirdest ways possible. It ended up being much simpler than I thought it to be, and hopefully it helps someone else. And take it easy, and maybe I'll see you guys again. Thanks for watching. Also, to those curious, the drums that I'm using is a mixture of boop, the Get Good drum kit with no kick. I didn't really like the kicks that are included, but I like the snare toms and cymbals, and that's being used with the Abbey Road Modern Drummer white kit. And there's some effects going on there. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, maybe.